Welcome back to the Garden Podcast, where we cultivate our faith one verse at a time. Now you see a little tree here and a little snake here. The garden represents the order that God wants to bring to his people even today. And the snake is going to represent the chaos monster that is trying to go against God's plan. You're going to hear these themes all over this podcast when we read our Bible and when we cultivate our faith one verse at a time. Thanks for watching. I think I just had a really good idea. Well, I think it's a good idea, but I think I'm going to start a new series on my channel. I've wanted to do a series of some kind that would relate to the garden. And while I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about the video I posted on my TikTok this morning. And I think I'm going to start another playlist of videos called Branched Off, where it's going to branch off and just be random topics about different things. Because I was just sitting here thinking of, what am I going to do a video about? And honestly, there's a few things I'm really sick and tired of in the Christian world, and not even like to do with Christians. So I think I'm literally going to do a video that's called Things I'm Tired Of series. And I don't know if I make it a separate playlist here on YouTube or what, but if you'll go visit my TikTok, I'll talk a little bit about my video I posted. But just to kick this series off, I don't know how long this is going to be, but one thing I'm really sick and tired of is how everyday pastors who are serving their community and serving their church get blamed for the corrupt leaders in our world. The corrupt pastors, megachurch pastors, because they're the ones that are on TV. They're the ones that you can see. They have live TV programs. They have more money, and they just become corrupt at some point. And so what your everyday pastor does is nothing like them. Just because you have pastors on YouTube and social media that you see a 30-second clip of calling people a tube full of demons, like an airplane full of demons, you know who I'm talking about. And then mega church pastors who have literally private jets. And I'm like, that's not like my church at all. And every Christian gets blamed for it. And what these megachurch pastors aren't doing is taking into account the fact that everyone's reputation is on the line. You're representing everyone, whether they like it or not. And I definitely don't like it. There's some qualifications that we're supposed to have in the New Testament. And these guys just get up there and it just gets to their head where all this power and money gets to their head. And they think there's one pastor, I won't say anybody's name because I'm not trying to make this a expose YouTube channel. Not anytime soon anyways. I'm not going to be that kind of person. If you want that kind of stuff, there's some very respectable people on YouTube that do it. I don't like the channels that just make fun of big name people just to get some attention. But there's some that I follow that are biblical about it. But the fact that people think we're a cult or think we're always asking for money, and we follow the Bible and that says that we are supposed to tithe, but by the time someone might visit your church and we are praying over the offering bucket, they think we're doing that because we just want money. We're just asking for money. Look, it takes money to pay the bills. The church building is just like a house that you live in and just like a building that you work in. Every building we have has air conditioning and has lights, and the general account goes to some of those things. And then the other stuff goes to ministry. But part of that is a requirement. We are meant to tithe because anything we have as a Christian doesn't belong to us. But by the time you see my church have an offering bucket or a tithe bucket, anything like that, it's not like these megachurch pastors. I saw a video that I'm sure if you're on TikTok, you've seen this guy who, in a weird way, I don't know the context, but asked for his church members to donate $2,000. And this lady comes up and I say only gives $1,200. That's a lot of money. And she looks like she might be standing there with a kid or something. I can't really remember. And he says, that's only $1,200. And she's probably like, that's all I got. But he's like, I don't think you heard what I said. And she's like, I'll work on the other 800. And he said, but that's not what I asked you to do. Are you kidding me? Yet again, another stinking pastor that
is ruining the reputation of the whole church. Now, I will say this. False teachers are prophesied in the Bible. We know that false prophets and teachers are going to be raised up in the church, or in their version of their church. Because there are some who have taken advantage of people using the Bible, and they make everyone look bad. Those people are not the church. That is not the church that Jesus would have set in place. Now, these are the people that Jesus died for, because anybody can come to Christ. But my point isn't necessarily that. Of course, my point will always be the gospel, and the gospel is relevant to anyone. But just the aspect of this rant that I'm going on is I'm just so tired of people being so naive. And I know it's because people are just lazy. They don't want to do their research on other churches in their area. They don't want to do actual research. People are convicted. And so when they have someone they can point a finger at and feel better about themselves, they're not going to go to church. And that is a sweet spot for the devil to have someone. Is that, and this is for my Christians too, the sweet spot that the devil can keep you in is that when you feel justified to hate someone, when you feel justified to gossip about someone and then call it prayer, to gossip about someone and not try to redeem that relationship that you could have with that person. When Jesus is literally dying on the cross, he says, forgive them. And we get caught up in our little petty arguments. So these are the people that Jesus died for, so that we can be changed. But now in saying all that, there will be false teachers who are taking advantage of vulnerable people in the church, usually older people or just naive people who will donate money because they think someone is the prophet of the time, and they're going to donate money to them because they keep lying to them and saying, if you sow a seed into my ministry, God knows how to pay you back. That's something I've heard a mega church pastor that we all know say, is that if you sow a seed, God knows how to pay you back. He knows how to get it back to you. Well, are you kidding me? So you're saying if I sow a seed of $2,000, is the Lord going to... And I believe God can bless you, but to manipulate someone in that way is a complete lie. God is not a lottery machine. He's not a genie. We don't put some money in and expect him just to double it. Do I believe in double portion blessings and blessings in the Bible? Of course. All good things come from the Lord. But we've twisted it today to so much that we forgot the point was it all came from God in the first place. That serving him in obedience was the point of all of it. The point wasn't to just get what you want from Jesus, to get what you want from God, and to live your best life now and live your most comfortable life now. Look, if your best life is now, then that means you're going to hell. And that's not my line. I think I heard that too. Because your best life hasn't happened yet. If you are a Christian, we got something to look forward to. That's the kingdom of heaven. Read Matthew. Pretty much right off the bat, after chapter 5, maybe even right before that, Jesus is talking about the kingdom of heaven, that he's like, I'm going to come back and establish this kingdom, which means your best life and your inheritance hasn't happened yet. Stop trying to get money just for the sake of getting money. Now, does the Lord want you to be prosperous? Sure. I know wealthy business people today who are Christians, and they donate and they're very generous. Like Dave Ramsey says. He's like, get money so you can be extra generous and not be broke after you're generous. But you can continue to be responsibly generous. But most people want money so they can just buy what they want. And this is not turning into a financial thing here. My point is your best life is a life in heaven. And your goal as a Christian isn't to become some rich, money-grubbing pastor or someone who is always just looking for a way to cheat someone. That's what these other mega church pastors are doing. I'm not saying all mega church pastors. I'm just talking about the corrupt ones. I'm not saying all mega church pastors are corrupt. I'm saying the ones that are corrupt. And like I said, this isn't a video to try to find them or anything. I'm just sick and tired of seeing videos like this on TikTok. It's so unfair, but at the same time, we as Christians know it's going to happen. We knew there was going to be false teachers. We knew there was going to be false pastors who are just fake. They are living their best life now, because if they're not preaching the gospel, talking about sin, or at the very least, Jesus talked about sin. He talked about getting the log out of your own eye so you can help get the little pick out of the little plank out of your, whatever the word is, the little splinter in your brother's eye. That means we have sin in our life. And he called out the Pharisees for being hypocrites. Jesus dealt with tough issues. And if you're not willing to talk about what Jesus talked about when he was here on earth and what he would have you talk about today, then you're preaching a false narrative, a false gospel. And I would challenge you to say that you may not be a Christian. If you can't say the things that Jesus said, of course in a loving way, Jesus knew the appropriate times to flip tables because the environment he was in, those were church people. And he's like, you're corrupting the house of God. This is meant to be a house of prayer. So he flips the tables to get their attention. He was calling out people for their actions. And so my point is, we need to be about what Jesus was about. And he served God all the way up until the cross. And then after the cross, rose again and then went to heaven and said, I'm going to prepare a place for you. And so my question to you is, instead of getting caught up in, maybe you're jealous of these megachurch pastors. I don't know who's going to see this, if you're one of those people that have become just complain about the church all the time. Look, go back to church. Go find you a good one, because there's plenty of them out there. All right? Jesus was talking to Pharisees in the New Testament who loved getting attention because they would stand on the street corners and pray out loud. They would donate large amounts of money in front of people and make sure everybody saw what they were doing. That is the definition of living your best life now, when you are supposed to have an inheritance in heaven. If you read the prodigal son, he was always a son, and then that return to his father was like an act of repentance, and God met him halfway and was like, God never forgot that you still belong to him. But if you're not in God's presence now, if you don't enjoy his presence now, if you're not serving him and putting your own desires aside and trying to pray for God's desires to replace your own, then you're not going to heaven. It's as simple as that. And so us as Christians, we don't need to get offended by, of course I get offended by when someone tries to attack the church. We need to stand up for the church and be the church. So that's my little rant, that this is the branched off series, not necessarily opening the Bible. I don't know what the plan is for this. I might go ahead and shoot another video here in a minute, thinking about reading through Daniel 1. But I just thought I'd talk about it. I have other topics, one that I might do next week. But next time you come across one of those videos that is talking about megachurch pastors, go visit my TikTok. You'll see the Stitch video. It says Pastor Core, and it's just showing all of the corrupt pastors. And I'm like, that is so unfair. Because that is not Pastor Core, because the core trend is assuming that all pastors are like that. But why don't you come to Bethel Assembly in Jacksonville, and you'll see that my pastor is not like that, our staff is not like that, and the people in our church. Do we have our flaws? Yes, but we're not out seeking money. We serve our community. And in my video, I'm like, but you wouldn't know that, would you? You wouldn't know that because you get to point a finger and act like you're better than everyone else, and you're the one that's got it all figured out. Yet, my church is serving our community. And so next time you want to point a finger, why don't you come help us? If it's just about making yourself feel better, TikTok's not going to do that for you. It's not going to keep doing that for you, where you have to sit behind a keyboard and act like you're all justified. So remember that place that the devil would like for you to stay is that you feel justified that you're never going to give another church a chance. And so I'm going to end it right there, because that's a good word. The devil's got you stuck, and he's going to leave you alone. If there's any chance of you trying to come back to church, you're going to be tempted to steer off the path. The devil's going to try to attack you. But as of right now, if you have that attitude where, oh, the church is just corrupt, the whole church is just corrupt, the devil's going to leave you alone. You're going to stay where you're at. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you share the same opinion, or don't. I'm not saying, if you don't share the same opinion, leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation about it. If there's anything you agree with or disagree with, please drop a comment, share, whatever, and let's keep this series going. So